Well, hello, and welcome back to the grind. Not grinding this week, we're working on the motor. So, what did I do? The plugs are out of it now, but that's okay. And the plugs all look okay. So, what I did was I brought it in and took the carburetor off right away and ran it through the cleaning thing there. And I've got this thing for delivering fuel to it. And then I took the plugs out, took a look at the bores, took a look at everything inside there, checked the compression. The compression was reasonable, and then got it. It started just like that, so that was good. Then I spent some time with the fuel pump, getting it back into the right, looking right. Anyhow, I've got a fuel pump kit coming, but right now I just put that in there to keep oil from spitting out into the world. And then I took off the generator and I did some work on it. And one of the brushes was seized up, so I made it so the brush would work. And then it seems that the generator works because if you hook electricity to it, it'll run like an electric motor, which is what they do. Generators do that, alternators don't. Anyhow, then I got this stuff down there, so I was doing compression check again after everything. And the compression check, first time was 120, 110, 135, 130, and then just a minute ago it was 130, 130, 145, 135. So I think the motor's a good motor. It seems to be maybe that the mileage on it, which is 46,000, that might be pretty close to true, because I really don't think this motor has been rebuilt. It's had some work on it. I'm pretty sure it had a new timing chain put in because there's blue goop on there. So somebody was doing some work on this motor, and it seems to be in not bad shape. So I'll carry on. That's like lots went on, so come on, you can follow through and see what happened and enjoy it all. So we'll see you next time. Make sure to like and subscribe, and tell all your friends. Bye for now. Here I am. Whoops. There. Now I'm talking. Here I am back at the this thing, the Hillman. Got it back. I pushed it back into the garage. You can just push this thing around by hand. It's very light. So I figured that let's see if I can make the car run, and that would be an interesting thing to do. I think, like as far as I know, it's positive ground. And or positive earth, I guess is a better way to say it. And I've got, this is the battery tray, and this hooks on right here, which is the solenoid, but it doesn't seem to work, and it looks like there's some water leaking out of it. So I think I'm in for another solenoid, not necessarily that one, but the everything goes like it's old car, so everything goes like, see this great big connection here, that connection there takes all the power for all the car, and it runs it right through the ammeter and then everything goes from the ammeter to wherever it wants to go to the fuse box then, which is over here. So anyway, but that's getting way ahead of me. Just to make it run, I can hot wire it, or get it to see what I can do about that. But first I'll take the carburetor off, clean it up, and see what I can do about the carburetor. And then we'll go ahead and get into other stuff. Get it to turn over, number 1, 2, and then get it to work, maybe get it to run. And I've ordered a water pump for it, so I'm optimistic that it will run. And there's a bunch of stuff in, like the radiator and stuff is in the trunk, along with the fan and all that kind of stuff. I will get the water pump hooked on and see if I can make things turn. This generator turns. A bunch of dirt comes out of it, but it turns. and it might be, it might be halfway in there today. I'm looking the wrong way. Here's the generator. It turns. Yeah, see, everything sort of turns on it, like and so, what the hell? I'll see what I can do. Wonder what that hose does. Oh, that's into the water heater. That's into the heating system right there. And it's got a ballast resistor there. I wonder what that does. Don't know. So I don't know what the coil is supposed to be at. Might be supposed to be like 3 volts, and I was pushing 12 volts to it. But I'm pretty sure that that'll be all right. It might have to go through that ballast resistor to get to the coil, but I think maybe the ballast resistor is for the heater motor to get 2 speeds out of it. That's more likely, right? Okay, so let's first off, I'm not even going to pull the plugs. Well, maybe I should. See, well, first off, let's get the carburetor off and clean that. Here we are, carburetor. So this is a heat shield. It moves. This is a little vacuum line that just came out of that spot right there. And there's a bolt here, bolt there, and a bolt there. Take them off, and this might come apart. I think that, I don't know where the feed goes, right here. Yeah, it looks like the throttle works okay. So, see if I can get apart here. Hang on. Looks like a 1/2 inch wrench there. Yep. And like everything else in this car, everything is, that'll be the choke cable. It must go on over there. Somebody's already pleasantly removed it. I don't know if this is the carburetor that was on the car originally, or if the carb, like I bought it, the fellow I bought it from, he had another car, very same with this, and he was rebuilding that other car and using parts from this. But every part that he stole off of this, he put back again, like very kindly. We don't know whether any of the parts are any good. It looks like the carburetor, I think, is the one that came on the car. And I imagine it's been off before. I don't think I'm the first guy in here, right? Thankfully, this bolt here is hand tight only. Well, it was tight on there, but it's, you can get it off with your fingers. Yeah, so there's the carburetor. We'll just take it apart and see if we can get it. That's kind of loose already, eh? Well, very loose. That's okay. First bit out, right? Anyway, well, I take it apart, you can see what this thing looks like. I guess I need some more tools than what I have, right? A 1/2 inch wrench, a 9/16 wrench. Now, first off, what's we got here? Somewhere I saw down here. This is the linkage for the it's even bigger than 9/16 or something. Yeah. That's the throttle body linkage. that goes over to here, and that's the primer pump there. We don't know whether it's any good or not. But then this is a choke linkage here. That gives, when you pull the choke, it gives it a bit of gas, I think. Yeah. So it just opens the throttle just a tiny bit. I don't know, can you see that? It just opens the throttle. When you pull the choke out, it opens the throttle a bit. And that's the adjustment for it there, which is pretty simple. I'll get myself a couple of screwdrivers. Yep. Yeah, I'm back to where I left off. Smells like fuel. So now this. Let's take the top off it now if I can. Oh, the doggy has got something going on there. I didn't see any tag on this thing, so. That came out of somewhere. Wonder where. Oh, another one in there. And that came out. That must have been held in by something. I guess that was held in by that thing, maybe. That would be a Ventura, I think, was what they call that. Cool. I'll figure out where it goes sometime. Yeah, back. That's all like one unit there. So I don't want to put this in the parts cleaner because I don't know what it has for a needle and seat there. Whether it's actually just brass or... So I'll just clean it out with the best I can there. There's some... I'll blow it through with some air. Anyway, that's all apart. As much as I can get it apart. There's this bit here. I don't think I have to fuss with that. I'm going to put it in the, like there's yucco in here. And there's some yucco there. I'll put it in the parts cleaner. I'll clean off this. Well, that's cleaned off. I'll get my razor blade and clean that all off. Then this thing here is a little bit suspect, eh? I bet you that's likely not the best seal on that thing there. I might be able to just sand it off a bit, make it better. Anyway, there you go. That's all apart. Where am I? Okay, this oddball thing that fell out somewhere, it actually goes right here on in the like that goes on, then the spring goes in, then this goes on, and that creates, oops, I got it upside down, it goes this way. Then that creates the stopper. So it's like a bivalve thing or one-way valve. When it pushes in, it makes the fuel go this way. When it pulls out, it sucks the fuel back again. Don't know what closes the other door, but must be a way to close the other door. Anyway, that's what that's for. So I did some hunting around to see if I figure out where the hell the thing went. Okay, now I'll get the vibrating cleaner out here and set it up, and we'll see what we can do about this. Noise. So I'll see you tomorrow, likely. Yeah, okay, here it is, back out of the cleaning fluid. Significantly cleaner. I'll just take some brake clean stuff and clean up the rest of the stuff and blow out all the passages, I hope. See how that works out. And all the little bits are in here. And this thing was floating, so it must be okay. Well, we hope it's okay. Anyhow, I'll put it back together, and we'll see what we can do about making the, see if the car has spark after that. There, I put this, what do you call this thing, whatever this thing is called, primer, or, you know, injection thing, sprays fuel into the right there. Now it's got, I've noticed that this, it's got a little valve right here. Now I think I've put that back together right. I'm not really sure what it does. And I did put a little tiny bit of this aviation forma gasket on this, just to keep that from leaking. And I'll, as long as this is not leaking, then I'll know if the diaphragm is leaking by this thing here. Anyway, okay, I'll just carry on, put some more pieces on, and I'll show you. This thing here is the float, cleaned up pretty nicely. And when I had it, I wonder which way it goes. I think it goes this way. Originally it didn't move very easily, and now it goes up and down very easily. Then this float, this thing here, just sits on top of it like that. And as it comes up, this lifts up and engages that thing there, which is the allows fuel to come in and out of the carburetor, or it allows fuel to come in, doesn't allow it to go out, we hope. So now I'll just sort of get that all stuck together here, make sure I've got all the pieces back in. Like I've got to put in that goes right here. That's your main jet. Meters the amount of fuel that goes into the this thing here, which I called a something or other. I had a name for it yesterday. I forget what it is now. A Venturi. That's the Venturi. So that this thing meters how much fuel can go into the Venturi, and it gets sucked in past as you increase the throttle. So if you turn the throttle, it opens up. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. Opens up, lets more air come past this, and then that creates a vacuum behind it and sucks fuel into the motor, or sucks fuel into the carburetor anyhow. We hope it goes into the motor. We'll see. Okay, I'll carry on. So down in here, in the bottom of the float bowl, like the float goes in right here, there's also another jet right down at the bottom here, and that allows the fuel to go, it meters the fuel going in to this chamber here. Like there's a vent, or right here you can see where this comes across. Fuel goes into there, sucked into this thing here, and then down the carburetor. That's how it works. So, and then this part here, this is to do with the a bivalve pump, right? So this pump pumps this way. When it pushes this way, it pushes fuel into this thing here. When it pulls back, then it sucks fuel out of this thing here somehow. I don't know for sure how, but there. And I think this is like an overflow thing that allows it to go back into this part. Anyway, the reservoir. Yeah, reservoir. So now I've got everything in there. This is the lift from the float, and that's the, I better check and see if that actually works. Works that way. Yep. So it's supposed to, when it's closed, no fuel. When it's open, fuel goes in. So that's working. And then this just sits on top here. That gasket, it's all in one piece, but I imagine it's fairly suspect. I didn't want to put any, like I didn't mind putting a bit of this stuff, the gasket maker on this, because that needs to be, it's below the level of fuel. This is above the level of the fuel, and I think we're, well, who knows, eh? So now these 5 screws go in, and I'll bring you back when I get it past there. So there, it's all together. You can see in here, you can see the float in there. And so when the float's down, you can blow into it. When the float is up, you can't blow into it. So that needle and seat is working. Now, that's all together. I'll have to hook up the choke here, and then I'll get it in. I'll hook up the choke and get it in, get it into the car maybe. Okay, so now the choke has got to be pushed in like that to disengage. Then it's on a spring load to engage. So that's the way that works. This clippy thing comes out of here, and then the choke cable goes into here and gets held tight. So I'll get that. The choke cable's on the car, and then in here, I don't know if you can see right in there. There's a little, where am I looking? There's right at the end of my finger there's a nut there, and it's got a hole through it. off the end of this, and there's a hole in the nut, and then you tighten that onto the choke cable, and that holds that tight. This seems to fit like that. I haven't changed the idle adjustment. This thing here, I turned it out 2 turns for the idle mixture, and that's where the vacuum hose goes. Okay. This washer underneath here, which is, you know, suspect at the very best. It's had a rough life. Anyway, I'll put it back on. It's okay in the middle, and I took it on my little thing there. What do you call this? Call this a belt grinder, and it's got fairly, you know, soft sandpaper on there, and it's a flat surface, so I just put it on there and flattened it out and made it flat on both sides. And I'm gonna put some of that, you know, goopy goop stuff on there, not this stuff, because it doesn't it's not, this one's, the goopy goop stuff's better for big holes. I want to make sure there's no vacuum leak there. Okay, yeah, there, that a thin coat of that blue stuff on there, both sides, and I'll put a thin coat on here, both sides, then I'll put the carburetor on top. How's that? Yeah, there, I've got it all in there. But as usual with me, I got to do it again. This should be underneath the spacer because it interferes with, where am I looking? Interferes with this thing here. So I've got to take it apart, and well, look this way. That's a fuel tank. Went on to Amazon and got one of these things. I haven't poured any fuel in there yet. I was checking out the how it worked. So I have to lift it off, change things around, and put it back on again. Yeah, there, it's back on again, and then if you use the throttle, it's not interfering there, huh? Now, put some fuel in it and see what happens, hey? Let the fuel go in. Well, see what leaks. Hang on, I'll set you up here where you can watch. That watching the, yeah. Here we go, fuel going in. I heard it going in. See if it comes leaking out anywhere into the carburetor or something. I'll get a light and shine it down there. Don't see anything going in there yet, and I don't see anything leaking here yet. Let's see if that if it squirts fuel in there. I need 3 hands. There's the third hand, right? Nothing much happening on that squirty thing, so that's too bad. But I'm not surprised. At least it's not leaking fuel out anywhere. It looks like it's full because there's a little bit coming off the top here. So maybe I'll just squirt a bit down the carburetor and see if we can get it to run. See what happens. Making a wire for it anyhow. Here's something new to the shop. You lift up on that. Wait a minute. How come I need 5 hands all the time, eh? Hang on. So you lift up on this thing, put it in there, and then just give it a whack with a hammer, and there's one crimped wire on there. So I'll tape it up and that'll be good. Well, let's see if it'll turn over, number one. Now I've got it Here's the negative going to the block. Here's the positive stuff down here on this. I'll unhook it later. I won't let it hang around overnight. And now I just have to cross those. This solenoid is not working, so I have to cross those two over and see if it'll turn. Hang on, I'll get you hung up here somewhere. Let's see what's going on. There you go. Big fat screwdriver. Here we go. That turns. Now the next thing I want to know is, does it get oil pressure? So I'll figure out where the oil pressure thing is. Okay, now, can you see this light? See that light right there? That's on the oil pressure sending unit. So the way the sending unit works is that when no oil pressure, it releases, like there's no oil pressure, it releases, and so then that grounds out the connection and the light comes on, usually in the dash, but here we've got it hooked up so it's here. Now, if the oil pressure, if it gets oil pressure, then this light should go out, we think. We'll see what happens. Whoa, that was interesting. So there, that's either the sending unit is not doing it, or I've got something hooked up wrong. Let me double check my wiring down there. That looks like it's on the spot there. And where's the oil pressure? Where's the oil dipstick? Right here. It's got some oil in it, not a great deal, but it's got some oil. Looks pretty clean too. Let me wipe that off. Yeah, it's a quart low, but that's all right. We can live with that. I'm going to pull the plugs so I don't have to fight the motor to get it to go, right? Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, pulling out the last plug here. I had to put a breaker bar on them just to loosen them, get them started. And then this is number 4 coming out. I told all the wires off and put a number on them. And I see that there's a ballast resistor underneath here that should be going to the, like this wire should have a ballast resistor on it. But that's okay. We'll get to that. Oh. There. Now all of the plugs, they have this rust around this part here, but I don't know if that's from taking them out or from whatever, because on the inside they're not rusty. 1, 2, 3, 4, they all look the same. Maybe I'll throw some oil down those cylinder walls and just some WD-40 I'll spray in there. Then we'll give it a few turns and see if the oil pressure comes up. Can you see that little light there? I'll turn you down a bit. Too much light from the background. How's that? Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. Okay, now I've got the plugs out I poured some WD-40 down the plug holes. Now we'll see if we can make this go a little bit faster this time. Oh, there, just about that oil pressure. And it's holding for a long time, unless that I think there's, oh yeah, lucky duck down there. Anyhow, there came back alive. See what happens this time. Looks like it's got oil pressure. That's a good sign. See if it's got spark. That'll be the next thing. I'll get set up and see if I can figure out how to get spark in it. There, I've got a green wire, this green wire hooked to here, and it sparks when they do that, so that's all right. That's the way that is. Let's see if I put a plug in here, if it will spark. These plugs don't look that old, you know, like, I guess. Looking in there, see what happens. Oh, where'd my big screwdriver go? Over here, where I left it. Okay, we got oil pressure, we think. And we have a really good spark. Okay, well, that's encouraging news. Yeah, because it took so long for the oil pressure to build there, I'm going to just unhook this wire here. And fuel is turned off. I think I'm done for the day anyhow. Yeah, it's like it's 5 o'clock. So what I'll do tomorrow is I'll lift it up on the lift. I'm going to dump the oil out of it and take that filter off and just see how much sludge there is in the bottom, because I think it could be that the oil sump is into the sludge, and maybe I have to take the pan off to see if I can clean it up a bit in there and not be pumping sludge through the whole system, right? So that's tomorrow. I'll leave my gas hookup. I think that's fine for the night. I guess I could just pull it off there and hang it above, but we're likely okay. Famous last words. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll pull it off of there and hang it above. I work smarter and not harder. I just unhooked it from here, put it down below where it's got to go uphill to drain. So that's all it needs to do. Yeah, I'm happy that there's spark, and I'm happy that there's like I've got the carburetor, I think, okay. It's not like the pump part isn't working. That may start working someday in the future. We don't know. Can't really see down there right now. Anyway, we'll have a look down there. Okay, here I am back again, getting ready to drop the oil out of it. And, oh, it's not bad now. A major snowstorm here about 5 minutes ago. And it's cold. Oh well, not today. Wow, a snow flurry, not a snowstorm. Storm would be all day long, right? Just, that's the first time I've had it up here now since I got this on. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Feels good too. Fix that one of these days. Soon, but not today. And so there's the oil, where the oil comes out. So I'll get that off there and have a look and see what's going to come out of it. Hang on a sec, I'll get set up. Yeah, here I am. So I put a wrench on that, and it's only finger tight. I guess I let it out a while ago just to see what would come out of it, right? And then, don't you know, I just put it in finger tight after that. Let's see what's going to come out of it this time. Oil, looks like oil. Yeah, here's the, whatever you call that. And there's not much sludge on it. It's actually pretty clean. So I'm going to dig in there with a thing. It's got a copper washer on it. I don't know if you watch since. Can you see any of that? No, not likely. Anyhow, that's pretty clean. So I'm going to dig in there with a scraper and see if I can scrape out anything. See if anything scrapes out. Number one. There's special tool number 5, right? Some days that thing just won't sit where you want it to. Looking right here, that's the oil filter. And I put a wrench on it, 5/8 inch wrench on the top. Just gave it a quick twist and it turned easily, so I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. It's a sign. And then all the oil comes gushing out of it, right? Now I don't have another filter like this. Maybe I do. But this one here doesn't look that bad anyhow. In fact, it looks like it's not bad at all. So I'll leave this filter on, put it back together, wipe it up, clean it up, and that'll be okay. That's why it took so long for the oil pressure to come up, was that thing had to fill this whole thing up before it would show any pressure. Okay, that'll be fine. Well, that'll be the way it is. Now I'll put oil in it. Should I take the valve cover off while we're here? Just have a look. That might not hurt. Looks like a Canadian person has been here. It's got a Robertson head screw on there. Yeah, that all looks good here. It'll likely have a pretty good clatter when it gets going because those valve clearances are a bit big. But I think we're okay there. Now I have a bore scope. I should look in the pistons while I'm at it. Maybe. I'll just put this cover back on right away because there's nothing to see here. Okay. Yeah, I dumped the old oil into there. I put in that Rotella 4T4 stuff, which is diesel oil, but they say it's good for old cars, to put it into old cars. Anyway, don't know why. That's what they say. So the anybody knows why? Let me know. The oil that was in here, I dumped it out. There was nothing in the bottom, no flakes or anything like that, so it's all pretty clean. That's quite nice to see. This is back on. I'm gonna turn it over now. Like, there's the oil pressure light thing. I'm gonna turn it over till we get the oil pressure back, and then we'll. Meanwhile, this spark here, I'll show you that it actually does have spark. You didn't see that yesterday. So let's get you set up here so you can look at the spark. Hey, that's what everybody wants to look at, the spark. I want to look at the spark. that's not looking that bad. Looking right there, or not. Try that. Yeah, the zoom function on this is difficult sometimes. Okay, I'll go around the other side and I'll twist it up. I'll let you know when the oil pressure light goes out, or if it does. Here we go. Good spark. Oil pressure light's out. Oil pressure light's out. So it's got the oil pressure. Pressure light's back on. That was quite a while before it came back on, so that's good. So we'll be happy with that. I'll just watch and see if it's dripping any around there. Now I don't know if you can see that or not, but this part over here is the piston, that part over here is the piston wall. They both look pretty good for this car. In fact, they look really good. That's as much as I can see of it with the bore scope I have, but that's all right. Anyway, I've filled up the oil. I bet that's my bore scope in there. I've checked all 4 cylinders. They're all looked about the same. And checked the oil. It's at the high level. I'll check it again now that I've pumped it up, see how much is in there. And it's got good spark, which you saw. So maybe it'll run. I'll just put the spark plugs back in. Maybe should I do a compression check while it's out here? What the hell, eh? Might as well do a compression check now, get it to run, and then do a compression check later. See what happens. There. Keep your eye on that. See what happens. Where'd my screwdriver go? Yep, only had it here a minute ago. Oh, there it is. See what happens here. $120. That's pretty good for an old motor that hasn't run for 100 years. I'll check the rest of them and see what they come out to. Yeah, so here's the results. Number 1 was 120, number 2 was 110, number 3 is 135, number 4 is 130. Now, likely number 2's got some dirt on one, the valve was hanging open or something. So we'll run it for a bit, or try to run it. And then these things here, spark plugs, I clean them off on the wire wheel, and 0.25 gap. The gap's too big on all of them, but I'll just clean them off and do them up. That'll be good. Okay, here I am. I put a bench. This thing here was leaking, of course. Amazon, right? So I put a bunch of, not a bunch, I put a bit of fuel down the throttle hole there. All the spark plugs are in. Oh yeah, I gotta hook up the coil. This one here goes to the coil. So it should have sparked. See what happens. How do you like that, eh? Isn't that something? Just starts and runs. Well, didn't run very long, but it started and ran. I don't know if it's getting fuel through it or not. Cool. I'll turn this out a couple of turns. And maybe like pull the choke and see what happens. Holy shit, lights are on the dash. Oil pressure, or a couple of lights are on, they're both the core. But they're on. One's the ignition light, I guess. One's charged. Who knows? coming from somewhere. 2 lights on in the dash. Now I'll just put a bit more fuel down. I have to go out in a little while here, so. Oops. There we go. Just a drop of fuel down there. Turn this fuel on, right? See what happens. You never know what'll happen here. Okay, here we go again. That's the choke on too much. So I give it another try with the choke off. Yeah, that's the oil pressure light on there, the orange one. Oil pressure light goes off on the dash. Okay, give it another twirl and see what happens here. How do you like that, eh? Oil pressure lights off on the dash. No amps showing because there's no amps. Cool. Oil sticking out the hole for the gas pump. Well, that's about as cool. That's pretty cool. How do I shut it off? Oh yeah. There, that's about as cool as you get, right? Unhook all the electricity. Turn off the gas. Now, I have to go out. So, I'm a happy guy with that. So there's parts coming. That's amazing how that thing ran. And I didn't unhook the oil pressure light from the dash, so it's working. There's electricity getting to it somehow or other. We don't know. Oh, from here, back feeding through this to the dash light. That's how that's getting there, right? Cool. Okay, well, there we go. That's one mystery solved, or not really a mystery. Now, I think I'll likely take off the timing cover and take a look at the chain and everything in there. But maybe not. Maybe just get it up and running and run it for a while and see how things are. I'll next time around I'll run it a bit. Well, I'll get the radiator into it and get a water system on it. So next time I think I'll see if I can get this thing here to come back to life, which would be the generator. I'll just pull it off and clean it up and check the brushes and everything on it. It seems it's not that seems it's not that high a mile thing car for, you know, being the age it is. I don't think it's been run that much. Well, anyhow, it has been run some because it's got, what did I say for miles on it? Have a look here. $48,000 miles. Now, I'm guessing that might be real, and it just was put away back in 1982. 1982, it would have been how old by then, 1963 to 82, 20 years old, 46,000 miles in 20 years. Don't know. But it wasn't too hardly, I don't think it was too hard run for everything, just by the looks of everything on it that I've seen so far. Anyway, I'm babbling on because I'm happy about that. That's cool. That's about the coolest thing that's ever happened around here. Well, the Triumph started up like that, but then you know what the demise of the Triumph was later. But that's all right. This one, there's no rust in there, and everything seems to be okay. There's no oil leaking around that, so that's all right. I'll get a new oil. I'll get an oil filter for it. They can throw that on anytime. Okay, here we go. That's all for another ignition switch in down here because I didn't have a key. This is just like a tractor ignition switch, and it has the same hookups as what the ignition switch in it has. Lights come on in the dash. The orange one is orange is oil pressure, and the red one is ignition, right? And one tail light works. Cool. That's cool. So the ammeter, I don't know if that's working or not. Let's check and see. Yeah, it's drawing power. Can't really tell. Anyway, that's cool. I'll see if I can, well, I have to go to the other side to turn it off. It's very, very, everything's far away in this car. Like, I'm pretty sure that the ignition switch is the same place, whether it's in a North American car or a British car. And British would have been handy over here, right? So let's see if I have the lights on, maybe. I think that was where lights were on. See if that ammeter thing moves any. Doesn't really. So, anyway, that's okay. Now, I'll just check and see if the lights are still on when, because it might be on even when the car is off, right? Or whatever. No, off there. Try a different position. I think that's parking lights there, I'm not really sure. Oh yeah, they come on there. So it doesn't need ignition to have that on, it just needs battery. That ignition's off. Anyhow, leave that like that for now. Until I, so that's a Urusol ignition switch made in China, of course. And here's the original one, and it's basically the same wiring. These two here seem to go to the from the battery sort of idea. This one here is the switch to make it go to the whatever you call it. Oh dear me. That's the switch to make the starter go, and this one here is to the accessories and stuff. Now I might be able to get that ignition switch apart right there, and if that's true, then I can just put this back in without a key. We'll see. So here's fuel filter. I'm back at it. Here I am. Yeah, back in the day. Fuel pump and filter, really. So I wonder where this is the top of it. Goes on like that. It's got a banjo fitting there. I have a fuel line there that goes to the carburetor. But we'll get to that later. Got a couple of gaskets, right? There's the that filter goes on here. Little glass thing goes on there. And then this holds the glass down, right? All like that. So, and I have all the screws for it here. 1, 2. I think somebody was intending to rebuild some of these things and never ever got to it, because there's a new old stock master cylinder for the brake, right? And you know what, there's the old one there off of it, so who knows, eh? This part here goes on here. Whoops, here. I've got most, and this spring goes in there, and there's the diaphragm. So actually it goes like that. The wonder what that's a seal from something. Used to be. This is part of the water pump business. Oh, that's part of the water pump. This little box, and there's a bearing of some sort. Not much of a bearing anymore. Another screw here for this thing. Now, so that, what I'll put this in the ultrasonic cleaner and clean it up. I've got a rebuild kit coming, we hope, and I think the rebuild kit will work for this, because there's, you know, they're made to be rebuilt, these ones. Amazing the stuff you can get now. Okay, so the rebuild kit will get here, but I'll have it cleaned up, and I'm going to just put this part on the motor so it quits spilling oil out. I have one gasket anyhow. That's a carburetor gasket. Anyway, that's what'll happen. Yeah, before I pull this apart, I'll just get it noted that this would be the outlet side, because it pushes through that valve, and this is the inlet side, and it lets in through the valve. One valve, two valves held in by that little thing right there. Pretty simple. And this is like a pressure chamber, so it's got a constant pressure there. Very cool. Anyway, I'll get this into this comes off of here, and I'll get this into the Vibrasonic cleaner. Yeah, so here's putting this back together. It's been through the ultrasonic. That's all pretty nice and clean now. These valves, there's two of them, like they're both exactly the same, and there's a gasket underneath there that I didn't know about until now, but it goes, like they're both exactly the same valves, but just goes one right side up, the other one's upside down. Then this little cover goes over them to put some pressure on them and hold them in place, which is a pretty simple design, right? So that one there is going that way. This one here is going this way. I think that's the inside. I'll check it after I get it all put together, right? It's old parts in there. There's a rebuild kit coming, but I'm just going to put it on I'm going to put it on the car to keep oil from splashing out the whatever you call that thing. Keep oil from splashing out the hole in the side of the motor. There's a hole in the side of the motor that oil splashes out from the pump. Yeah, so fuel pump's back in there. It's not a functioning fuel pump, I don't think, but it just keeps the oil from spitting out of the motor there. Then I can take this off and have a look at it. I'm sort of just doing things that one thing I'll do is I'll make it so the front brakes work. I think I think they all will function if I put a master cylinder in there, and then I'll block off this line here that goes to the back, because it's going to nowhere, going to Neverland. So then the front brakes I think will work fine. I've got new flexi hoses coming for them, but that's a while away yet. I think I do anyhow. I forget what I've ordered. So anyhow, I'll pull off the generator, see if I can clean that up some. Sounds okay. I'll take all this stuff out and see if I can get it cleaned up inside. It's likely full of all sorts of yuck. I'll get this off with a impact driver. I'll just get that off with a wrench, I hope. Don't even know if I have to take that off. Maybe I'll just leave that on there. I'll make it so it loosens and tightens anyhow. Okay, and then I'll show you as I get along here. That spins nice and quiet. This just needs a bit of lube on it, so I'll do that. The inside here, this piece of cardboard is supposed to keep that wire from touching on here, and there's your ground wire coming from the all the coils there, and they look fine. So I won't dick with that stuff. This thing here, I'll just clean it up a bit. Won't take much to clean that up. This part here, I'll clean up that arm. I think that's called the armature there. Clean that up a bit. Then this brush here moves freely. This brush here is seized. So I'll see if I can get that brush moving, because there's still some action to it. I just put a little bit of oil on it, so I'm going to let that sink in for a bit, and then we'll go from there. But it won't generate without that brush on it, right? But mostly it looks, you know, for its age, it looks okay. I'll put a bit of grease in here. And I think it's safe to put the top part of that back together again after I clean that. And then I'll get this part here working. Yeah, there now. This is the way they're supposed to work, like that. And like that. This little spring pushes them in against the armature. So I'll put a bit of grease in there. I'll start reassembling it now. I've got that cleaned off pretty good there. I just took Scotch-Brite and cleaned that off with Scotch-Brite. I put the drill on here, which was a mistake because it ruined the threads. Anyhow, but I rethreaded it. And then ran it through with Scotch-Brite. Now I'll put some... What kind of grease would you put on here, I wonder? Synthetic grease? Maybe I'll put some like brake lube grease, synthetic stuff on there. That would likely be the right stuff to do. Okay. Yeah, so how did I get that on there? I just sort of had my fingers in there. I spread the what do you call them, brushes out just till it got on top of the armature. And then you got to make sure that this wire here comes through, because it's insulated to go through that hole right there. And the first time by, it wasn't there, so there it is now. That's much better fit, much happier fit. Then we'll just see what happens when I tighten it up, if it's gonna be okay. Managed to mess it up. So this one here, I'm disappointed. It doesn't turn very easily when I put it back together, even though it's, and I know what happened is when I was pounding on this to get the pulley off, I was pounding on that to get the pulley off, and then that pushed that bearing in tight, so then it wouldn't turn very well. So then I gotta take it apart and see if I can pull that bearing out a bit. Oh dear. And then all these threads got ruined on here. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. I might have to cut it to a smaller size or something. Oh boy. Okay, so I took this over to the grinder and I ground it off sort of roundish, right? Then I took a M10 1.25 and cut the threads into it there, so that seems to be pretty good. And this nut is M10 1.25, and I've got the bearing off, and the bearing feels really good, so I'm not going to fuss with that. So see if I can get it back onto the right amount tomorrow. I'm not going to, it's 5:30 already, quitting time. So I'll go in for tonight and then I'll come back at it tomorrow. I was going to start it today just for fun, but I never got around to that. But I did get that fuel pump on there. See what happens with that. And I'll see when the stuff is coming from England for it. Okay, see you later. The plate, right? I didn't push it in all the way. There's a little bit of a gap there still. I'll see what happens when I put it together. Now, what happened, so first off, I put it together upside down, of course. Then I take it apart, put it together again on the press. So here we'll try and get this thing here on now. And see this little notch right there? That lines up with that thing right there. So that goes right on like that. And then the cover goes on I need 2 hands for that. Wait, what'll I do here? So that's the brushes and everything there. This part here has to come through that hole right there. So it goes like this. So I just hold the brushes in with, what's that, your index finger? And very carefully stick it on here. These wires that the brushes hook onto have to go in. How come it worked the other time? It won't work now. Never works when it's on camera, right? Oh, I got it in the wrong spot. Okay. There, once the brushes are on spot, then that just goes in. Good. Now that that's all in there, a little bit tight spinning now. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be. I haven't done anything to it, so we'll put the screws in. There's an oil spot right there for it, right? You're supposed to oil that. I think I'll pull that back out and clean out the stuff that I've got on there. Just take it apart once more. So I'll just shut you off because I'm going to clean the grease that I put in there out and just make it so it's got oil. Make sure the oil spot is free. About right here, and it's clear because when I put it on there it squirted stuff out. So now I just put these screws back in, and I put a little bit of anti-seize on the end of the screws up there. Okay, those are tight. That doesn't turn very easily, but I guess that's how it is. Wait until I put a pair of pliers on here. Doesn't turn at all easily. Oh, come. How come that's so hard to turn? What have I got wrong? Eh? I'll have to see what I can do. There, I didn't have it squeezed in far enough on here. So now it is. So I'll double check these screws, make sure they're tight again. And it turns nice and easy the way it's supposed to. So yay, I think I have it just about right without ruining it this time. Because generally I ruin these things. Or not generally, sometimes I ruin these things. Now that's turning now. And I think I can go and do a test on it too, see if it's actually generating, but I'll do that after a bit here. Okay, that's on there now. I didn't want to use, that's a self-locking nut on there now. I didn't want to use the impact wrench on it because, well, so this thing here, if you get one of these things here, this is handy tool for holding on to stuff like that. Oops. So you can, whoops. Once you have that on there, then you can hold it like that. Hold it, and it'll allow you to tighten the wrench. So anyhow, these things are handy. Okay, strap wrench or something. Yeah, so I think the generator works because if you hook positive to one side or negative to one side and positive to the other side, give it a little turn and it starts spinning by itself. That's good news. That'll make it'll make electricity the other way around now. So we hope anyhow. Alternators won't do that. Generators will. So I've got one going to the positive, or this going to the big one, and negative going to the field wire. Anyway, that seems to turn. So we'll let it be. Oh boy, there's fire there, right? Gotta be careful with it. So, okay, so this thing here, I'll just paint it up and make it look a little bit prettier, and then we'll put it back on. It's a little bit more presentable, right? I'll stick it back in where it, from whence it came. Now, meanwhile, down here, you see this pipe here, that's a drain for the block, and used to be, it had this on the end of it. I gave it a couple of twists and it broke right away, so the pipe was a little bit rusted there anyhow, so it's a good thing to take it apart. There's how it broke. This part here was weak. Anyhow, so that's, and then I just put a rubber block around there, a stopper in it, and that'll be fine. Indeed it turns. So now let's just start it up and see if it'll run for giggles. And then after I start it up, I'll double check. I'll do the I'll let it warm up a bit. There's no water, of course. Well, all the water is drained into there now out of the block, but I'll let it warm up a bit, and then I'll do a compression check on it again, and then we'll close this one off, see how things turn out. Okay, let's see if it'll start. 1 second, I'll get set up here. Well, you can go right there. I'll turn the key on, see what happens. I've got it set up through the ballast resistor there, but the ballast resistor doesn't resist very much. It's called both sides. Ignition lights on. Oh, you're falling over. Ignition lights on, and the there, maybe that'll stay. And something's burning there. Something's smoking. That's that ballast resistor is smoking. We won't use that for a bit until I figure it out. That should have power to the coil there now. Don't like stuff to be smoking, eh? Ooh. There you go. Just not working out here well today, is it? How come? That should just stay there. Okay, see if I can get this thing to go. And then this thing here is jumping up and down. Not on there very tight. Guess that has to be tightened up. Wonder if I have that end upside down. Hey, yay, yay, hey, yay, yay. I'll let it jump up and down for a few minutes. Put a bit of gas down there to start and give it a prime. Okay. So there, it quit for some reason. Just like that. That's all right though. It runs. Yeah, lots of steam coming out of there where it was getting pretty warm. Anyway, that's good enough. Let that be. I don't know why it would have stopped. Maybe something grounded out somewhere. I don't know. Maybe it just ran out of gas. This thing here. We never know with this stuff, right? I can loosen off that a bit and see if any fuel comes out. Yeah, so I think it was starving for fuel. This thing here is a sealed up, so I've let some air in there, and we think that'll get fuel there now. Try it again. Going now. I think it was not getting fuel. I think I have that in wrong. Key works. That's all right. Okay, so that seems to be running again, and the oil pressure seems to be working okay. I'll take the plugs out, check the compression on it, and go from there. Yeah, see what happens here now. You watch that. Yep. Wait till I get my big screwdriver. There it is. So I've got the that's number 1 coming up, and I've got a screwdriver down the ignition there. I'll just unplug this in case it decides to go. Doesn't really matter, no plugs in it, right? Oh, very difficult to get in here sometimes. Come on. There we go. That's, what did it say? 135 or something? Leaking off somewhere there. Try it again. $125, $130 on that one. I'll mark that down. And I'll do the rest of them, and I'll see how they compare to the originals. Yeah, there, that's looking better. So number 1 was 120, it's 130 now. Number 2 was 110, it's 130 now. Number 3 was 135, it's 145 now. And number 4 is 130, it's 135 now. That might have been 140, but you know, close enough. So this one here is the best one of the bunch. 150 would be like brand new, eh? But anyway, the I think they say 10% or something in between them is, so 130 to 145, that's about 10%, you know, close enough for me. So we're okay across the band with the compression's all right. Carburetor needs a kit. Like I have to find a kit for that to make that work better, and I need to get some sort of watering going to it. So that'll be coming up soon. So I'll close this off, and we'll, you know, look forward to more of getting this thing to run properly and look right. So I think we'll spend a bit more time on the running part of it, and then we'll carry on with some body work. I was getting, you get tired of doing crunching and banging and smashing body work all the time. So it's fun to do some mechanical work sometimes. But that can also, like, I've got that. Don't know what's going on with that thing there. It's not in there right. I bet you I have it on the wrong side of the cam lobe somehow or other. So I better get that sorted out right, or else it'll create a problem. Anyway, so that's enough rambling. I'll hope you enjoyed it all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now. Whoa, what is it? November 9th, maybe. And it's a blustery day out today. I don't know, can you see that little bit of snow flying? It was coming down in big flakes, and now it's like what they call a grapple, which is like soft hail, I guess. Well, there goes all the ducks. There's about 20 of them hang around in here every morning until I show up, and then they take off. They likely come back later. Anyway, I won't hang around long at the beach today. It's cold and windy. But the waves are going the other way because the wind's behind me. Offshore breeze, onshore, elsewhere. Yeah, and there's Doggy.